Hello everyone, my name is Matt.
I'm Austin. And I'm Will.
We did our research on GMO foods, organic foods, and how it relates to the athlete. We're going to show you a short video, then Will's going to talk to you about GMO foods, Austin's going to talk about organic, I'm going to share some of the research that I did, and then we're going to give some tips for the athletes in here.
Cue it up.
Let's start with the video, here we go. You're going to love her.
And I'm Lacey Green. About 90% of the soy, corn, sugar beets, cotton, and canola crops in the U.S. are genetically modified. Although it's not immediately obvious, most of the products in the grocery store contain GMOs, meaning that we've all consumed them. GMOs are plants that are genetically engineered by splicing their DNA with other species, producing plant, animal, bacterial, and viral gene combinations that you probably, definitely wouldn't find in nature. This technology was developed because it produces a crop that resists pests and tolerates weed-killing herbicides. Now, GMOs also allow crops to grow in arid, dry land that they wouldn't otherwise. Basically, the major seller here is that it allows farmers to produce a lot more food in a lot more places with a lot less work. More supply means lower food prices, so without GMO foods, a trip to the grocery store could, in theory, cost more. How much more? I don't know, probably a lot though because they're a huge chunk of the supply. Also relevant, by 2050 the global population will hit 9 billion. If that doesn't sound like a buttload of people, just think about the fact that in 1950 the population was only 3 billion. Humans are like rapidly multiplying bacteria, ravaging the earth. All of those mouths to feed, coupled with the diminishing amounts of arable land, are a few of the reasons why some folks say, yay GMOs, but what about those protesters? 2 million people, 52 countries. The critics say that GMO foods come at a much higher cost than people are led to believe. There is research that suggests that GMO foods aren't harmful. This is why the FDA has approved them and say that they're safe. But there's also research that suggests that GMO foods are harmful. There are hundreds of studies that suggest that GMO foods and the herbicides that are on them make people more likely to get sick. Scientific.
All right, cool. So we'll stop her there. She gets a little fast for us, but let's go. Cool. All right, so it was kind of a cool way to kind of introduce GMOs and what exactly is a GMO and a little bit of the controversy that goes behind that. So I want to start us off with defining what a GMO, or the difference between an organic food and a GMO food. So when we talk about organic foods, we're talking about the growing process that goes behind the crop. So you're considering whether any pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, fertilizers, growth factors, any of the stuff going into the growing of the crop, then that is not considered an organic food. In order for an organic food to be organic, it has to lack any of these things in the growing process, and these standards are all set by the EPA. Now, when we're talking about genetically modified foods, that's a different process. It's very differs in techniques, the way they approach it, but it essentially narrows down to using DNA recombinant techniques to take the genome of different bacteria, viruses, or other organisms and inserting them into crops to make them more resistant or have a better niche for the specific habitat they inhabit. So making them more resistant to droughts, low sun exposure. However, we've been using them recently to, in order to produce more crop, have the resistance towards different pesticides, insects, and whatnot. So some of the health concerns that come about with GMOs. So as an athlete, as a consumer, the first thing you have to ask is it safe for me to eat? And along with that is you wonder who is overlooking all this product or all this process, right? So two main agencies that overlook the production of GMOs are the FDA and the USDA. So they have several regulations and standards that go along before GMO products even put out into the market. The testing research and process can take anywhere from 2 to 7 years before products actually put into the market. And things that they look for, are things like toxicity of genes. Once you have this new genome structure, the proteins that are encoded within that, can they be potential harm to the individual consuming them? Novel antigen proteins, is the possibility of an allergic reaction to these new proteins. After consuming these new products, can they alter metabolic pathways? And they also compare this new novel product to the conventional product to see if there are any differences in composition and nutrient content. So, two of the main concerns that are seen with the consumption of GMOs, again, was the possibility of toxicity. So, like I said, are these new proteins toxic for us? And antigenicity. So, about 7% of total US population suffers from food allergies nowadays. And it all started about the same time that GMOs were introduced into the market. So that raises a concern as to, is this the cause for a new, or this rise in food allergies? Evidence is not conclusive, but speculation is there. So the other concern that raises when consuming GMO foods are the consumption of pesticides. So once a food product has a resistance towards pesticides, it's able to tolerate more pesticide put on it, right? So along with that, you're going to be consuming more pesticides. The research that goes behind choosing a pesticide and what the EPA considers safe for, considers safe to cause unreasonable harm to humans. So you can kind of take a stand on that. I did kind of list this article here that shows the process that goes behind the testing that goes within the production of pesticides and what regulations are set by the EPA. And now, one of the main concerns with the consumption of pesticides is that this recent study, you might have heard of it, the study that was conducted in France with rats. It was a longitudinal study in which rats were consuming GMO corn with pesticides on it, and they found the metastasis of malignant tumors all through different organ systems. And people question this study, but you also have to look at who's questioning the study and seeing if there's conflict of interest in there. So I do encourage you to look at that. Now, how do pesticides affect the athlete? Well, there are two main ways in which I found that pesticides affect the athlete. The study demonstrated that the two main kinds of pesticides, organophosphates and organochlorines, affect metabolism of glucose and lipids. So organophosphates will generally target stress on beta pancreatic cells, which release insulin into the blood. Having a decreased insulin will raise glucose levels within the athlete, and hindering performance that way. Also sets you up for a pre-diabetic kind of stage. Again, this is not an immediate effect. This is kind of like prolonged. So if you're an athlete looking at going in the long run, something to consider. And organochlorides, they remain in the adipose tissue for a long period of time. They promote the retention of triglycerides, as well as increase in BMI has been found with the retention of organochlorines. And finally, there is an effect on the endocrine system. Imbalances in testosterone have been found with the use of organophosphates, showing or having a direct effect on the athlete with the imbalance of testosterone.
All right, so like Will said, there's going to be a lot of differences in the farming types of organic compared to conventional or GMO farming. Organic farming is a sustainable type of farming that uses many different techniques to preserve the land and environment, and they're held to a very high standard by the USDA and EPA. And some of the things that organic farming does is preserve natural resources and biodiversity. They do this by their farming techniques. And one example of the farming technique is crop rotation. So, for example, an organic farmer will plant beans in a plot for 1 year, and those beans actually infuse the soil with nitrogen, and they'll plant a different crop the next year, so lettuce or corn, and that crop will actually benefit from the previous year's corn because of the nitrogen infused in the soil. Another thing they do is they support animal health and welfare. So they let their animals range free, they let them eat and drink whenever they want, and they also don't use antibiotics in their animals, in the animal feed as well. And conventional farmers do this, they put antibiotics in the food, so the animals are eating the antibiotics and then we consume that animal. So it actually breaks down our immune system because antibiotics break down our gut biome. So it basically just makes our immune system just a little bit depleted. And organic farmers do not use genetically modified materials. Research is still on the effects of genetically modified materials, so it's kind of hard to tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing, or if organic is necessarily better at this moment in time. And lastly, they only use approved materials. So conventional farming, they use synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, and herbicides. Organic farmers use organic and biological processes to deter from being infected by weeds or bugs. We found in our research that there's a lot of benefits to consuming organic products. And the first research study that we saw that told us this was a research that compared organic plums, organically farmed plums, compared to conventionally farmed plums. And in our research, we saw that the organic plums actually had higher levels of antioxidants and phenolics. And this is beneficial to not only athletes but us in general, because antioxidants are directly linked to disease prevention and disease treatment. And this just aids in the longevity of overall health. The next benefit is the use or the lack of use of pesticides or synthetic pesticides that organic farmers use. They use naturally occurring ingredients such as plant extracts, insect pathogens, and fungal derivatives to combat to bugs and weeds. And on the other hand, conventional farmers use Roundup and organophosphorus. Roundup has been directly linked to have a carcinogenic effect, so it's cancer-causing, and organophosphorus has direct links to ADHD and autism. And these things don't happen right away. Like if you eat or any of these, consume any of these pesticides, you're not going to all of a sudden have autism. It's generationally. It's a long-term effect. So there are going to be some discrepancies between the labels on GMO. So if you guys are shopping for organic foods, I want you guys to be aware of this. So if you see a product that has the non-GMO verified label on it, I want you guys to know that it's not organic. This is just basically a seal that says this product does not contain genetically modified materials in it. And this company was essentially just created specifically for the customer to let them avoid the GMOs, because again, we're still not really sure of the long-term effects that GMOs have on us. And lastly, when you're purchasing just straight organic food, it's going to either have the USDA symbol or it's just going to say organic on it. And this is all regulated by EPA and USDA. When you buy a product like this, you can be assured that you're consuming a product that doesn't have synthetic fertilizers or antibiotics or GMOs. And the only thing that I really found that had a negative kind of connotation with organic and organic farming was the price. And I'm sure if you guys have ever gone organic shopping, you know it's a little bit more expensive. I think when I go, I probably spend an extra 20 cents per dollar on organic than I do on conventional foods. So if I went to the grocery store and spent $100 on conventional foods, I'd probably spend $120 on organic. So that is something you can take into consideration. If you don't have the means to buy organic, then probably go conventional. But organic is definitely overall better for health.
There are a few athletes that we selected that do eat organic. The first one is Brendan Brazier. He's an Ironman triathlete, and he's written Thrive and Thrive Foods. The second one is Novak. He's the ranked #1 tennis player. He was very sick, and he ended up going all organic and gluten-free, lactose-free, and he was able to come back from it. This is Ryan Baker. He played for the Miami Dolphins. Now, the first two, maybe, but this guy, he doesn't know how to eat healthy. That's why we say, behind every great man is an even greater woman. His wife is all about organic. She's got her own blog, and she's all about it. She likes doing it. GMOs and supplements. If it's not labeled organic, if it's not labeled GMO, sorry. One more time. If it's not labeled organic, you gotta assume it's GMO. Most supplements that are on the market are GMO, and the ones that are not will be labeled organic. So Muscle Milk came out with their own organic version, and otherwise Organic Valley has all their stuff organic. So what I did is I interviewed a few professors from lacrosse that I looked up to and wanted to know what they thought. So the first one I interviewed was Dr. Jagam. He's the supplement expert, and he got into GMOs when he had some recent experience with some food sensitivities, and he got really sick. And he's been listening to podcasts, and he found out that GMOs can disrupt the mucosal barrier, which can lead to cell mutations, and he thinks this is what led to his allergies. He's also concerned about the long-term soil issues, the environmental issues, and then he sees that diseases are skyrocketing, and he wants to know why. The next one I interviewed was Coach Schultz. He kind of takes both a scientific approach and an athlete approach. He says that the research overall does not indicate that GMOs are bad, but he's also been reading about kind of the conspiracy theories, guys in black trench coats going to houses and shutting down science and threatening. His stance is that individuals living in poverty should definitely be eating GMOs, because you'd rather eat GMOs than starve, and that we shouldn't stop that from happening. An example would be the golden rice. But if you're a white overprivileged kicker, I don't know how many of those we have in here, and you have the money, then definitely avoid GMOs and consume organic. So what he does, all things considered, is he buys his dairy and his meat products organic, and then his fruits and veggies, he just gets them conventional to save money. He says just because God gave us the ability to think of this, talking about GMOs, doesn't mean we have the right to do it, or that we should do it. The last one I talked to was Faye Ellis. She's in the bio department, and I went in thinking that all biology professors were pro-GMO, and this is definitely not the case. Of the three, she was the most anti-GMO. For her and her family, she buys as much as she can organic. Price is the only issue, so she definitely gets corn, wheat, and soy organic. She's very against Monsanto. She thinks that the connections that Monsanto has with our government is shady, and that it's a cause for concern. She says from an environmental and biological standpoint, the BT corn is killing caterpillars, butterflies, bees, and is wreaking havoc on our ecosystem. She's also concerned about superweeds and superbugs, and she has a friend that is gluten intolerant but can eat organic wheat. So she's kind of like, that's kind of strange. If you're looking for a very good pro-GMO TED Talk, this is the guy, Rob Syke. This is just one example. He's very scientific and he's very good. Main conclusions, 130 research projects, 25 years, 500 independent research groups, lists them here. GMOs aren't harmful. They're not any worse, they're fine. He says we should celebrate GMOs, we should be all about them. No one should be organic, that's ridiculous. He even makes fun of it, and he puts together a really good argument. And then Robin O'Brien is kind of the other side. She's not so scientific. She's just kind of like, maybe we should look into this. This all started with her daughter had a really bad allergic reaction, so she wanted to look into what's going on with these allergies. I never knew anyone as a kid that had an allergy. And 265% increase in the rate of hospitalizations due to food allergies. And she's like, why do we have this? And she goes on to say, the USDA claims beginning in the 1990s, new food proteins engineered into our food supply, no human trials to see if they were safe, and now we have these milk sensitivities. 1994, genetic engineered protein into the milk or into the cows, help them produce more milk. Great for profit, but no human trials. The U.S. currently has the highest rates of cancer, and we have genetically engineered soy and corn, both of which are our top allergens. Other countries waited to allow genetic engineering, and the U.S. took a different approach. We said, well, hasn't been proven harmful, throw them in. Our stance is that allergens cause symptoms that can manifest as joint pain, headaches, depression, and more. If it is harmful long-term, it is not conducive for optimal performance for athletes. Our recommendation is that the best diet is fully organic. This is going to be 10 to 30% extra cost, but if you're willing to put in the price, live the rest of your life as a champion. Another way to do it is the Jagemann-Schultz method, selectively organic. Eat the perimeter of the grocery store organic, so the meat and dairy for sure, fruits and veggies for bonus, and then the pleasure food conventional. And that'll save on some price. That's the way they do it. Another way to do the selective diet is the Clean 15. You can buy that conventional. These are the ones that have a skin or are less pesticide ridden. The Dirty Dozen are the ones that you should definitely buy organic because they have more pesticides. When you're consuming GMOs, eat a variety to limit exposure to one certain one, and then peel all your stuff, clean all your stuff. If you're buying organic, you can save money by buying in bulk, freezing when it's on sale, and by growing your own. Okay, we got to be really fast with this because we're running out of time. We got a little science experiment for you.
We need 2 volunteers at SCEMP. You're up.
We'd like one guy, one girl, and then Dr. Skimp.
Okay.
If you can come up here, that'd be great. Who wants to volunteer? I suppose we should tell you what it is, too. You're gonna try one GMO apple and you're gonna try one organic apple.
Shoot, now it's chewing gum. So, I got music. Flavor.
Thank
Okay, we got one girl, we need a guy. Come on, dudes, there we go.
Should have had that sound.
Looks like we got like
Now.
photo.
Okay, so here's the deal. One side is gonna be organic. They're all gonna pick from the same pile. The other side is gonna be GMO. They're not gonna be sure which one is which. They're gonna have to taste it, test it.
GMO or conventional? This is a GMO apple.
GMO apple. GMO or organic? You gotta eat it, come on. It'll be all right.
Really?
There's no clear scientific indication that GMOs cause cancer. And then we ask that participants do not look back, because we're writing it on the back wall so
Okay,
that
so what are we doing?
everyone else
I
can
don't
see.
understand, are we guessing?
Yeah, so you're gonna tell us which one you think is the conventional, and then
Yeah, so you want to take one of each,
Okay.
and then remember which one's which.
oh, just analyzing the
Right versus left.
Oh, wow.
Do we have anything that can cleanse our palate?
That's a good point.
Salivate.
We're trying to guess which one's which, or
Yeah.
which one tastes better?
We want to know both. I'm going to ask you both. Which one tastes better, and which one do you think is organic?
This one tastes better.
Are they
Hold on,
same?
hold on, hold on. Let everyone else decide, and then.
Are they the same type of apple?
Yes.
Same type of apple, from the same store.
Oh wow. No.
Kept in the same conditions.
Okay.
All right.
We all ready?
So we took it from the right, took it from the left? Is that what we're-
Okay, we're gonna start. We're gonna start.
That one was
State your name.
Nick Bizey.
Nick Bizey. And which one do you think tasted better?
The one on the right.
One on the right. And which one do you think is organic?
I don't know.
Best guess.
The one on the left.
Finish with Dr.
Like
Skip.
your right, like this side?
Yeah, that way.
State your name.
Okay, I'm Savannah, and I don't know which one I took from which hand, but I like this one better, which is the left. Can you tell?
You don't have a bite.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you tell? Okay, I like this one better. And I don't know which one's GMO. I'm gonna go with the one that tastes worse, I guess.
Fair enough, fair
I
enough.
just wanted to be different.
All right, and
I
Dr.
finished
Skip.
the one that I enjoyed, and that was on the right. I believe that's organic. Then the one
Okay.
on the left. It was sweeter. It was smaller, which generally indicates it's organic.
You're right, or, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're
All
right.
right. Did every single one get it right?
She didn't, no. You had it right in your hands, but I think you got both of them actually wrong. You enjoyed the GMO better, and then you thought the organic was first tasting.
I like this one.
So this side was organic, this side was GMO.
Oh,
Well done.
yeah.
Thanks, guys. Dr. Skip, there was a lot on the line. Look, big claim. Well done. Here are our references. Thank you.